I can't explain what happened that night, but I can tell you, it still haunts me. It was supposed to be a regular drive home, but something about her, changed everything. It was around 11:30 p.m., a dark stretch of road with no streetlights. I had just finished a long day at work and was on my way home, looking forward to a good night rest. I was driving alone down an old, desolated highway. This was the kind of road where you go for a mile without seeing any signs of civilization, just trees, field, and the occasional curve. I had made this drive 100 times before, but this time was different. The air felt heavy, and the night seemed thicker than usual. I had the radio on, playing some light music, trying to keep my mind from wandering. But that's when I saw her. An old woman standing by the side of the road. She wasn't just on the shoulder like someone waiting for a bus or to cross. She was standing in the middle of the road, holding a small, worn-out suitcase. I don't know why I stopped. I've always been cautious, especially at night, but something about her made me feel like I had to help. I slowed the car down, rolled the window down, and called out to her, "Do you need a ride?" She looked up at me slowly, her face obscured by the shadow of her hood. But when she stepped closer, I saw her face, wrinkled, tired, eyes that seemed almost vacant, like they'd seen too much. She said, "Yes." Her voice cracked but steady. "Could you take me to the next town? It's just a little further." I hesitated. The next town was miles away, and there was nothing between here and there, just the endless stretch of highway. But she didn't seem dangerous. In fact, she looked lost, and for some reason, I felt like I couldn't leave her there. "Sure," I said. "Hop in." She climbed into the passenger seat. Her movements were slow and deliberate. The smell of an old paper and dampness filled the car as soon as she sat down. I tried not to breathe it in too deeply. As we drove, she didn't say much. She just stared out the window, her hands tightly clutching the suitcase on her lap. I glanced over at her a few times, but she never seemed to look back. I asked her where she was from, but she only shook her head and murmured, "A long way from home." The road stretched on, the same dark highway winding its way through trees and fields. No other cars passed, no lights, no sign of life, just me and the old woman driving through the emptiness. About halfway through the journey, I asked her again where she was heading. This time, she looked at me, her eyes wide. "I'm just trying to get home," she said quietly. I nodded, but there was something about her gaze that sent a chill down my spine. It was too quiet, too still, and for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. It was as if we were on a path that had already been set, and there was no turning back. But I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Minutes turned into an hour. The car's headlight barely cut through the darkness, and the silence between us was growing heavier. The old woman hadn't said another word. I wasn't sure if she was asleep or lost in her thoughts, but something about the stillness in the car felt wrong. Then suddenly, I saw it, a figure standing by the side of the road. I slowed down and looked at it. It was another woman, standing exactly like the first, dressed in white. I didn't think too much of it at first. Maybe she was waiting for a ride too. But as I passed by, I felt a sharp coldness in the air. I turned back to see the figure in the rear view mirror, but when I looked, there was nothing there. I glanced at the old woman in the passenger seat. She hadn't moved, Just as I was about to ask if she had seen anything, she spoke. "Do you see her too?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I froze, my heart pounding. She knew what I had seen. I turned to look at her, and for the first time, I saw a slight smile form in her face. But it wasn't assuring. It was faintly unsettling. She knew something I didn't. I kept driving, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It was as if something had been following us the whole time. I tried to push the thought aside, but they kept coming back, especially when I turned to look at the road ahead. The headlight felt like they were barely cutting through the darkness anymore. As we got closer to the town, I saw a sign, but it wasn't one I recognized. I slowed down, unsure of where we were. The sign said, "Welcome to Glenwood, 5 miles ahead." Glenwood? I had never heard of it, but I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a small town that didn't show up on the map I had checked earlier. But then, the old woman spoke again. "Stop here," she said. Her voice was low. I didn't want to. There was something off about the way she said it, but I did it anyway. I pulled over to the side of the road, my headlights illuminating a path of dirt that led into the woods. She turned to me with a soft smile, but it was cold, like she was satisfied with something only she understood. Without a word, she opened the door and stepped out the car, carrying her suitcase. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what had just happened. But as I watched her walk away into the darkness, I felt a knot form in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. I drove away. I didn't want to look back, but I did. The road was empty now, just a dark stretch in front of me. It wasn't until I was driving the last few miles into the town that it hit me. The old woman had disappeared. She wasn't at the side of the road, and she wasn't anywhere near the car. She had vanished without a trace, and I was left with nothing but the echo of her presence in the silence. But when I reached the next town, I stopped at the dining to clear my head. I asked the waitress about Glenwood, but she just looked at me like I was crazy. "There's no Glenwood around here. Never heard of it," she said. But when I realized the truth, there was no sign, there was no town, there was only me, driving on a road that seemed to stretch on forever. I haven't driven that stretch of highway again, and every time I'm on a road at night, I feel that same cold presence waiting just outside my car window. I still wonder if I help her or she helped me get lost.